It was July 19th, 2025, in Yosemite National Park, a place people visit to feel alive, not to come face to face with death. Angela Lin, a 29-year-old Google software engineer, was on a simple weekend hike with her boyfriend, David Hua, and two close friends. Alumni Grove was supposed to be peaceful, a trail filled with ancient sequoias, glowing in the warm California sun. Nothing dangerous, nothing unusual, just a quiet walk through giants. Angela was the careful one in the group. She followed every rule, read every sign, stayed on marked paths. The weather was perfect blue sky, still air, not even a hint of wind. But, as everyone would soon learn, nature doesn't always give warnings. They were standing near the trees, admiring the view, when a single sound cut through the quiet, a loud, sharp crack from above. David later said it happened in only 2 or 3 seconds. A sound, a blur, then chaos. Massive branches began crashing down like spears. One of them struck Angela. David closed his eyes for a split second, and when he opened them, she was on the ground, face up, blood spreading beneath her head. She wasn't moving. He dropped to his knees, calling her name, begging her to breathe. He dialed 911 with shaking hands, then fought desperately to keep her alive, performing CPR until a ranger arrived. But paramedics later said the truth no one wanted to hear. Angela likely died instantly. The impact had been too severe. The sheriff's office confirmed her death as accidental blunt force injuries, a falling tree branch on a windless day on a safe trail. Officials closed the area for a week, but even now, they haven't explained what made the branch fall. Angela's boyfriend says the Park Service has offered almost no answers. His frustration grew so heavy, he eventually turned to the media, demanding to know how something like this could happen without any warning at all. A tourist who witnessed the aftermath wrote on Reddit that the memory haunted them since. They said the group wasn't doing anything wrong. Life can be so cruel, they wrote. Angela's own story made the loss feel even heavier. She graduated from UC Berkeley, earned her master's at UT Austin, worked at Salesforce, then joined Google, where colleagues remembered her as brilliant, gentle, and uplifting. She was the kind of person who brought chocolate to late-night study sessions just to keep everyone smiling. She loved swing dancing, singing, hiking. She loved life, and she loved David. They had known each other since college. He said she was the most cautious person he had ever met, which is why this didn't feel like an accident. It felt like a nightmare. One moment of silence, one crack of wood, one instant that changed everything. Yosemite has seen falling tree fatalities before, but Angela's case was different. No storm, no wind, no rotten trunk, no warning at all. The investigation continues, but the people who loved her are left with nothing. No answers, no closure, just grief and a question no one can answer. How can someone die when they're doing everything right? Angela Lin was 29. Brilliant, loved, careful, hopeful. She wasn't climbing cliffs or crossing rivers. She wasn't taking risks. She was just standing under a tree, and in one silent moment her life was gone. A vacation meant to celebrate life and family turned into heartbreak when Carol Sue Kirkin, a beloved figure from Rochester Hills, Michigan, met a sudden and tragic end during a safari in Tanzania. At 75, Carol had lived a life full of purpose, energy, and compassion, and her loss sent shockwaves through the community she had devoted herself to for decades. Carol was more than a professional. She was a force of nature. A registered nurse, she had extended her influence far beyond healthcare, working as a physician services representative and doctor recruiter for Kittenton Hospital Medical Center, improving lives in ways both direct and indirect. She co-founded the Women's Fund of Rochester Hills, raising substantial donations to support women and children in need, volunteered at the North Oakland YMCA, and offered support to military families. In every role she undertook, Carol brought a rare combination of empathy, intellect, and determination, inspiring those around her to act not out of obligation but from genuine admiration. She was also a national vice president with Arbonne Cosmetics Company, where she taught educational classes and quietly led by example. Colleagues remembered her presence as invigorating, her sincerity compelling. When she spoke, people listened, drawn by her unwavering passion and dedication to causes greater than herself. Travel was another of her joys. She documented her adventures with vivid posts, sharing the wonders of the world through the eyes of someone truly alive to every moment. In August of 2017, Carol embarked on a family safari in Tanzania with her son, Robert, a university dean from Corpus Christi, Texas. The trip was meant to be a joyful exploration of Africa's wildlife. On August 5th, while observing a group of hippos in their natural habitat, the idyllic day turned into an unimaginable tragedy. Hippos, despite their seemingly docile, herbivorous nature, are fiercely territorial and notoriously dangerous, responsible for hundreds of human deaths each year. Their speed, power, and unpredictability leave little room for escape. Carol's encounter was sudden and fatal. Details remain limited, but it is known that she died swiftly, in her son's arms, leaving no time for intervention. Just hours before, she had posted about witnessing the great migration of hippos and bull elephants, her excitement and wonder radiating through the words. That same spirit of curiosity and fearlessness, so emblematic of her adventurous soul, brought her to the very edge of life that day. The news devastated her family and community. Social media filled with tributes, disbelief, and grief. Her grandson, Eric Strickler, called her the greatest grandmother anyone could ask for. Friends described her as a dynamo, a rocket of passion and energy who lifted everyone around her simply by being present. Those who had served alongside her on boards, committees, and philanthropic projects remembered her quiet yet relentless leadership and her tireless drive to make a difference. Carol's obituary captured the magnitude of the loss of a woman who had lived fully, determined to reach a century, and who was taken far too soon. Survived by her husband, Bill, 3 children, and 5 grandchildren, her absence left a void, both personal and communal. Yet, her legacy endures. Through every life she touched, every cause she championed, Carol Sue Kirkin remains a reminder that one person's passion, energy, and love can ripple outward, leaving an indelible mark on a world now painfully aware of her absence. Yellowstone Lake is one of those places that manages to look peaceful, even when it is anything but gentle. Stretching wide across the landscape with calm blue water and postcard-perfect views, it gives the illusion of safety and serenity. Yet beneath that quiet surface lies water so cold that it can overpower even the strongest, most experienced individuals. It was in this setting that the tragic 2013 kayaking incident unfolded, a sobering reminder that nature's beauty can sometimes overshadow its hidden dangers. On that day, a man set out to cross part of the lake in his kayak, likely expecting a challenging but manageable adventure in one of the most iconic national parks in the world. What happened next would turn into a heartbreaking cautionary tale about cold water, sudden accidents, and the unforgiving reality of wilderness environments. The lake, that looks so inviting from the shore, is actually a near-freezing trap. Even in summer, Yellowstone Lake hovers only a few degrees above freezing, cold enough to shock the body into instant panic. Most people don't realize that water this cold doesn't simply feel uncomfortable. It actively shuts the body down. Muscles stop responding. Breathing becomes uncontrollable, and even the simplest movements become almost impossible. When the man's kayak capsized, he was suddenly plunged into water that feels more like liquid ice than a lake. In those moments, the beautiful view means nothing. The stunning mountains and clear sky blur into the background as the instinct to survive takes over. But in water that cold, even instincts struggle to keep up. Cold shock happens within seconds. Hypothermia follows closely behind, and the ability to swim or climb back onto a kayak becomes nearly impossible. Accidents like this often feel unreal because they happen so quickly. One moment, someone is paddling, steady and confident, and the next, the situation has shifted into something life-threatening. In Yellowstone Lake, there is almost no buffer zone between everything is fine and everything is out of control. The cold takes over faster than people can react, and once the body begins to shut down, survival becomes extremely unlikely. The man who capsized had no chance to warm up, recover, or even properly call for help. The shock of the water alone is enough to make breathing erratic, and within a minute or two, strength fades to almost nothing. It is a terrifying reality that many visitors underestimate simply because the lake looks welcoming. Unfortunately, beauty often hides danger, and in this case, the lake's calm appearance masked a deadly threat. Rescue efforts in places like Yellowstone are always challenging. Distances are vast, weather changes rapidly, and the cold works against everyone involved. Even when help is quick, cold water incidents leave extremely small windows for survival. By the time rescuers reach the scene, the cold has usually done irreversible damage. That is what makes events like this so heartbreaking. They unfold fast, offer very little room for intervention, and leave behind a stark reminder of how powerful and unforgiving nature can be. The tragedy on Yellowstone Lake became another entry in the long list of accidents that occur when people underestimate just how quickly conditions can shift in the wild. While the incident is deeply saddening, it also emphasizes something important. Yellowstone isn't dangerous because it is wild. It is dangerous because it is real. The lake doesn't negotiate, the cold doesn't pause, and nature doesn't bend its rules for anyone. Respecting that reality is essential. The man who lost his life on Yellowstone Lake didn't make an outrageous mistake or take an absurd risk. He simply encountered the one element of nature that offers no second chances. His death stands as a reminder to visitors, adventurers, and even experienced outdoors enthusiasts that awareness, caution, and respect are not optional in places where beauty and danger exist side by side. It was September 14th, 2004, deep in the wilderness of Yukon, Canada. A float plane glided over the glassy waters of Reed Lakes, tucked into the southern slopes of the Selwyn Mountains, before gently touching down. This was a place few humans ever saw 175 miles north of Whitehorse, with the nearest settlement, Stewart Crossing, 15 miles away. Only the most seasoned hunters or wildlife experts dared venture here. On board was 49-year-old Bart Schleier, a man whose life was defined by the wild. He had come for a 2-week solo expedition, fully prepared, or so everyone thought. Bart wasn't an ordinary outdoorsman. He was a wildlife biologist, hunter, and survival expert who had spent decades navigating some of the world's most unforgiving landscapes. Born in Cheyenne, Wyoming in 1955, he grew up under the guidance of his father, Dr. Otis Schleier, a physician and hunter. At just 10 years old, Bart joined his father on a safari in Mozambique, a trip that would ignite a lifelong obsession with the animal kingdom. From drawing wildlife in meticulous detail to studying their behavior, Bart's fascination was unmatched. By 1979, he had earned a master's degree in wildlife biology from Montana State University. Professors remembered him as someone who seemed to understand animals in a way few ever could. He worked on the Grizzly Bear Recovery Project in Yellowstone, capturing and tagging bears with radio collars. Later, he traveled to the Russian wilderness to study endangered Siberian tigers, where he lived with a partner, Tanya Perova, and their son, Artyom. Bart thrived in the wild, building his own bows and arrows, hunting and surviving for months in isolation where others would falter. When he arrived at Reed Lakes, he carried with him 3 large containers of food, a tent, clothing, and an inflatable boat. He was ready for anything, or so it seemed. But when the float plane returned 2 weeks later, Bart was gone. His supplies remained untouched, but there was no sign of him. On September 30th, he was reported missing. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police launched a search. They found traces of food and his inflatable boat half a mile from camp, hinting that he might have tried to walk toward the highway. But the wilderness had other plans. Worsening weather forced the search to halt, yet Bart's close friend Dib Williams refused to believe the story ended there. Together with pilot Wayne Curry, they returned, scanning the frozen, silent expanse. What they found sent a shiver down their spines. Bart's tent had collapsed, everything inside untouched. His backpack, knife, radio, even the bear he had brought along. This was a man who never abandoned his gear. The next day, more clues emerged. His bow leaning against a spruce, a handmade quiver, a dry bag. It appeared Bart had been calling for moose, perhaps one last time. Then came the haunting discovery, a camouflage face mask, smeared with blood and hair. The RCMP were called back. The new search revealed animal tracks, scattered clothing, a cap, a camera, and part of a human skull. Dental records confirmed Bart Schleyer was dead. The evidence suggested a grizzly attack, drawing uncomfortable comparisons to Timothy Treadwell in Alaska. But friends and fellow experts questioned it. Bart was one of the most skilled wilderness experts alive. Could a bear or even wolves really sneak up on him? His clothing showed almost no damage, his skull bore no bite or claw marks, and his food remained untouched, an oddity in any predator attack. Some whispered of a sudden medical emergency. Others quietly speculated about foul play, perhaps linked to his time in Russia. No one knows for certain. What is clear is that in September 2004, the wild claimed one of its most capable and fearless explorers, Bart Schleyer, a man who had stared into the eyes of Siberian tigers and grizzlies alike, met a fate that even he could not survive. Juliana Glay-Tourneau had traveled thousands of miles from her home in New Mexico to Zambia, driven by her love for adventure and her devotion to spreading her faith. At 64, she had already lived a life filled with purpose, raising her children, caring for aging parents, teaching women about biblical hospitality, and dedicating herself to her church community. But this trip was different. This trip was meant to combine her love for travel with a mission to witness Africa's wildlife and bring inspiration to those around her. On the afternoon of June 19, 2024, Juliana and her group were near the Morima Cultural Bridge in Livingston, marveling at a herd of elephants slowly moving through the area. Elephants were majestic, gentle giants, a common and cherished sight in Zambia. Yet, even the most familiar creatures could harbor a dangerous unpredictability. As their safari vehicle slowed to allow the tourists a closer view, the air was filled with awe, cameras clicking, whispers of wonder. Then, in a heartbeat, everything changed. According to one account, one of the elephants grew aggressive without warning. Juliana, seated and enthralled by the moment, was suddenly thrown from the vehicle. Panic erupted around her. Before anyone could react, the massive animal trampled her, leaving fatal injuries in its wake. It all happened in a matter of seconds at 5:50 p.m., a moment that would forever haunt those who witnessed it. However, another version of events emerged. The Livingstone Tourism Association disputed this account, stating that the tragedy occurred after tourists had left their vehicle, violating park regulations. They insisted that no record existed of an elephant pulling someone from a vehicle, calling attention to how unpredictable human-wildlife interactions could become in shared spaces. Elephants are intelligent, social creatures, often forming tight-knit family groups. Yet, even the calmest of them can turn dangerous if startled or feeling threatened. In Zambia, as in other parts of the world, human activity increasingly intersects with their natural habitats, and the results can be tragic. Authorities responded quickly, confirming Juliana's death and noting that it marked the second fatal elephant attack in the country that year. Locals expressed growing concern about the rising presence of elephants near residential and tourist areas, highlighting the fine line between fascination and danger. For Juliana's family back in New Mexico, the news was incomprehensible. A devoted wife, mother, and community pillar, she had always lived to inspire and care for others. Her sudden death left a void that words could scarcely describe. Efforts were made to return her body home, but the heartbreak lingered. A stark reminder that even in moments of wonder, nature's raw power is never to be underestimated. The 2016 Norris Geyser Basin incident remains one of the most sobering examples of how powerful and unforgiving Yellowstone National Park can be for visitors who underestimate its geothermal landscape. On a summer afternoon in June, 23-year-old Colin Scott explored the Norris region with his sister, moving through an area known for thin crusts, unstable ground, and steaming pools that conceal boiling water beneath calm surfaces. They stepped away from the protective boardwalk while searching for a place where Scott imagined he could comfortably soak, unaware that no part of Norris is safe for any kind of bathing activity. The ground in this region is fragile, heated from deep volcanic forces, and capable of collapsing without warning. As Scott moved toward a pool that appeared peaceful, the surface beneath him suddenly gave way, and he fell directly into a hot spring filled with intensely acidic, near-boiling water. His sister witnessed the fall and could do nothing to help as the corrosive environment made any rescue attempt impossible. Rangers reached the scene quickly, yet the extreme heat prevented immediate recovery efforts, forcing them to delay until conditions were safer. When rangers returned the following morning, the pool that had violently claimed Scott showed no visible trace of him. The combination of high temperature and low pH had broken down his body overnight, leaving nothing for recovery teams to bring back to his family. The official report described the water as hot enough to destroy almost any organic material within hours, a fact that highlights the seriousness of the geothermal hazards hidden beneath Yellowstone. The tragedy quickly became an important example that park officials referenced when explaining why guests must remain on marked paths, especially in places like Norris where the crust can be as thin as paper. Visitors often see the bright pools, gentle steam, and quiet surroundings and assume the environment is safe, not realizing that each step outside the designated walkway carries a real risk of collapse. The park receives millions of visitors each year, and rangers are constantly working to balance access with safety, offering warnings that sometimes go ignored by those eager to explore forbidden areas. The Scott case demonstrated how even a momentary decision can produce irreversible consequences. It also illustrated the emotional burden faced by rangers who must respond to incidents that could have been prevented through adherence to rules designed to protect everyone. The incident has continued to influence discussions about safety, responsibility, and respect for natural environments that operate far beyond human control. Yellowstone is a place shaped by immense geologic forces, and its geothermal features exist because of heat rising from a still active volcanic system deep beneath the surface. The pools that draw visitors with striking colors and tranquil appearance are in truth unstable windows into an environment where temperatures soar and chemical reactions occur with relentless intensity. Scott's death reminds us that beauty in nature often comes paired with danger, and that protective boundaries are established not to restrict experience, but to preserve life. Park officials emphasize that every rule, sign, and warning is built on decades of research and many hours of observing how quickly accidents can unfold when curiosity overrides caution. The responsibility to stay safe ultimately rests with each visitor, and tragedies like the Norris case underscore the consequences of stepping outside the guidelines created by experts. While Yellowstone will always inspire awe, it also demands humility. By respecting the limits set by the park, visitors honor both the power of the landscape and the memory of those who have been lost within it. It was April 3rd, 2006, in La Grave, France, a place where the mountains don't just rise, they loom, they judge, they wait. The air was sharp, the snow untouched, the kind of morning that tempts even the most seasoned adventurers to go steeper, push harder. And that's exactly where 48-year-old American extreme skier Doug Coombs was headed. Doug wasn't a weekend skier. He was a pioneer, one of the men who defined extreme skiing itself. Born in Boston, raised on the icy slopes of New England, shaped by Montana State and sharpened in Jackson Hole, Doug lived for the feeling of dancing down slopes so steep they looked vertical. He co-founded Valdez Heli Ski Guides, won 2 World Extreme Skiing Championships, and mentored a generation of skiers. But titles never mattered to him. Freedom did. By the early 2000s, La Grave had become his sanctuary, raw, ungroomed, untouched, and utterly unforgiving. No ski patrol, no boundaries, just a cable car that dropped you into chaos. That's where Doug felt most alive. That morning, he was with 30-year-old guide-in-training Chad Vanderham. They approached the Couloir de Polichinelle, a 50-55 degree chute where one mistake becomes a freefall. Mid-descent, Chad slipped. One moment of instability and he was gone. Doug didn't think. He moved to help, and that's who he was, but the slope didn't care. Doug slipped too. Both men fell nearly 500 feet. Doug died instantly. Chad survived the impact, but later passed away. The skiing world shattered. Arguments followed. Was La Grave too dangerous, or was its danger the very point? Doug himself had always chased risk, even getting banned from Jackson Hole for pushing boundaries. But this time, skill wasn't enough. Precision wasn't enough. The mountain chose otherwise. A decade later, friends returned quietly and placed plaques in their memory. Snow buried them, but not the legacy. Doug Coombs was a husband, father, mentor, and icon. A man who shaped a sport. But that day in LaGrave proved one thing. In the mountains, even legends are mortal. On a warm August morning in 2020, the sun rose over Limpopo, South Africa, casting long shadows across the Thorny Bush River Lodge. It was meant to be an ordinary day for Sheldon Hooper, a 27-year-old safari guide with a deep love for wildlife and an unshakable sense of duty. But within moments, the routine of the morning would give way to a tragedy that would haunt his family, colleagues, and the conservation community forever. Sheldon had joined the lodge less than a year earlier, quickly earning admiration for his kindness, sharp wit, and profound respect for animals. He was more than a guide. He was a storyteller, a photographer, a writer, and an advocate for inclusive conservation. His quirky humor and infectious smile left a lasting impression on everyone he met, and his commitment to giving opportunities to less privileged South Africans made him a beloved figure both inside and outside the lodge. On August 18, 2020, Sheldon was tasked with inspecting the lodge's perimeter fence after reports that elephants had breached the area during the night. Accompanied by a co-worker, he ventured into the wild, unaware that the morning held a deadly encounter. They soon came upon a herd of 9 elephants, 3 adult females, and 6 calves grazing and moving with quiet authority. Despite the distance of roughly 20 meters, the proximity to the young elephants was perilously close. Then, without warning, one of the adult females charged. Maternal instincts flared into deadly force. Sheldon was struck by her tusks, the impact piercing his knee and fatally wounding him just above the heart. In the chaos, he somehow remained conscious long enough to call his girlfriend, Rebecca Rolls, a fellow lodge employee. She rushed to his side, holding him as life slipped away, a desperate attempt to save him that ended in heartbreak. The lodge initially stated he had died within 20 minutes, but his father, Gordon Hooper, later revealed that records indicated it took 42 minutes, raising haunting questions about the response time. Adding to the anguish was the knowledge that Sheldon was mere meters from the lodge's royal suite when attacked, and that the elephant responsible had targeted 10 other people in recent weeks. Why no preventive measures had been taken weighed heavily on his family. The Hoopers were determined to uncover the truth. Sheldon had gone on a fence inspection unarmed with necessary tools, and they refused to accept that his death was simply a tragic accident. The lodge commissioned an independent investigation, yet Gordon doubted its objectivity. Undeterred, he conducted his own meticulous reconstruction, piecing together Sheldon's phone records, emails, and messages to understand the events leading to the fatal encounter. Despite their appeals, the lodge refused to revise its official account. The pain for Gordon and his wife Cindy was more than grief. It was trauma, the kind that cuts deep into the soul of a parent. Determined not to let Sheldon's death be in vain, they launched the Sheldon Hooper Little 5 Million Foundation, a mission to make conservation more inclusive, continuing the work that had defined his life. Sheldon's memory lives on through every life touched by the foundation, and in the hearts of those who knew him, a young man with a boundless spirit, taken too soon in a tragedy that his family believes could have been prevented. Yellowstone National Park is a place of breathtaking beauty, with its towering geysers, steaming hot springs, and vibrant geothermal pools that seem almost otherworldly. But beneath this serene and colorful landscape lies a hidden danger that is easy to underestimate. In August 2000, this danger became tragically real in the lower Geyser Basin, when a young woman lost her life and 2 others were severely burned after falling into a hot spring. The victims were 3 concession employees who underestimated the fragility of the terrain and attempted to cross the area at night. The park's geothermal zones are notorious for their thin crust, which can easily give way under a person's weight. In this case, the ground beneath them collapsed, plunging them into a pool of scalding water. Temperatures in these springs can reach well over 170 degrees Fahrenheit, enough to cause immediate and severe burns. and the boiling nature of the water only amplified the danger. This incident serves as a stark reminder that Yellowstone's beauty comes with inherent risks, and that the park's thermal features, while mesmerizing, demand respect and caution. The tragic events of that night unfolded quickly. The young woman, Sarah Holfers, tragically lost her life almost instantly, succumbing to the severe burns and scalding water. The two other employees, though fortunate to survive, sustained life-altering injuries and faced long recoveries from second- and third-degree burns. For a park that welcomes millions of visitors every year, such incidents, while rare, are serious and highlight a crucial point. Even experienced park employees can misjudge the dangers present in these geothermal areas. The fragility of the ground is not always visible, and stepping off designated trails or boardwalks can have devastating consequences. Yellowstone's hot springs and geysers are not just natural curiosities. They are extremely powerful geothermal systems capable of inflicting fatal injuries in mere moments. In the aftermath of the accident, investigations highlighted the importance of safety awareness and strict adherence to park guidelines. While the victim's decision to navigate the area at night was a contributing factor, the incident also emphasized the need for better signage, education, and understanding of the hazards present in these geothermal zones. Yellowstone's Lower Geyser Basin is a stunning part of the park, full of boiling springs, steaming vents, and colorful mineral deposits, but it is not forgiving. The accident of August 2000 is a sobering reminder that the allure of adventure must always be balanced with respect for the power of nature. Each hot spring and geyser, no matter how inviting it may appear, carries hidden danger beneath its colorful surface. Visitors and staff alike must treat these areas with caution, recognizing that a single misstep can transform a moment of awe into a life-altering tragedy. While Yellowstone continues to captivate and inspire, the story of Sarah Holfers and her colleagues remains a poignant lesson in the delicate balance between human curiosity and the raw, often unpredictable power of the natural world. This incident remains one of the most serious reminders of the risks inherent in exploring Yellowstone's geothermal features. The park continues to educate visitors about safety procedures and emphasizes the importance of staying on boardwalks and designated trails. The events of August 2000 are now part of Yellowstone's history and serve as a cautionary tale for all who visit. Understanding the dangers of these hot springs is essential, and the lessons learned from this tragedy continue to inform how both visitors and employees interact with the park's natural features. The memory of this incident underscores the necessity of respecting nature and recognizing that its beauty is intertwined with potential hazards that require vigilance, awareness, and caution at all times. It was June 9th, 2025, deep inside the remote Fractos forest of northeastern Greece, a place so wild and untouched that even seasoned hikers rarely set foot there. Into this wilderness ventured 61-year-old Christos Stavrianidis and his close friend Demetrius Kuglu. They weren't out for a casual hike. They were on a mission tied to a forgotten chapter of history. A year earlier, Christos had stumbled upon something extraordinary. The wreck of a World War II Greek warplane, hidden for more than 70 years and still remarkably intact. It haunted him, this rusting relic of the past lying alone in the forest. He wanted others to be able to find it safely, to preserve it before nature swallowed it completely. And so he returned, determined to map out a route. Christos wasn't some inexperienced adventurer. He and Demetrius knew the mountains well. They carried pepper spray, gear, and even brought along a dog for protection. Everything about the trip said they were ready for anything, but the wilderness had its own plans. As they pushed deeper into the rugged Rhodope Mountains, Christos began filming with his phone. The early footage was calm, trees swaying, birds calling, sunlight slipping between branches. But then, something emerged from the quiet. Christos spotted movement, a large brown bear. He called out to Demetrius to get the pepper spray ready. Moments later, the bear stepped into the frame. The dog reacted first, charging, barking, snapping. The forest erupted into chaos. Demetrius managed to spray the bear, and for a moment, it seemed to work. The animal retreated, shaking its head. But instead of disappearing into the trees, it redirected its focus and locked onto Christos, who was standing dangerously close to a cliff edge he hadn't noticed. Christos had already used up his own spray. Demetrius later said the bear didn't look like a killer. It looked frightened, confused, reacting out of instinct. But fear doesn't make an animal less dangerous. In a sudden burst of movement, the bear lunged forward, not to maul Christos, but to push back, to defend itself. That one swift motion was enough. Christos lost his footing. There was no time to grab onto anything. One slip, and he plunged into the ravine below, a drop of more than 2,600 feet. Demetrius scrambled up a tree for safety, calling for help with shaking hands. When rescuers finally arrived, the forest told the story clearly. Broken branches, scattered gear, enormous paw prints, and Christos's phone, still recording until the moment the world dropped out beneath him. At the bottom of the ravine, they found his body. The fall had killed him instantly. The forensic report confirmed it. No bite marks, no claw wounds. Only catastrophic fall injuries. Shattered ribs, fractured spine, massive internal bleeding. It was not a predatory attack. It was one split second of panic, one defensive shove from a startled animal, and one step too close to the edge. Wildlife experts later explained that Greek brown bears are rarely aggressive. This one likely saw the men and the dog as a threat, and in the confusion, the dog's second rush might have triggered the bear's return, turning a retreat into a fatal encounter. Authorities reviewed the recovered video. It captured Christos's calm filming, then sudden tension, his voice calling to Demetrius, the dog barking wildly, the sound of pepper spray, the bear's low growl, then silence, and the cut-off clip that marked the moment he fell. Christos's funeral was held days later in his hometown of Drama, Greece. His wife, his 3 children, and countless friends struggled to grasp how a man who had spent his life navigating mountains could be lost so suddenly. He had simply wanted to guide others to a hidden piece of history. Instead, he became part of one. Today, Greece has only around 450 to 500 brown bears left. They avoid humans. They disappear before they attack. It was a warm Sunday morning in South Africa's Pilanesburg National Park, the sun casting golden light over the rolling plains and the remnants of an ancient volcanic crater. For Carlos Luna, a 43-year-old tourist from Bahia de los Caballeros, Spain, it seemed like the perfect day. Camera in hand, he scanned the horizon, searching for the perfect shot, an image that would capture the raw, untamed beauty of the African wilderness. He had no idea that within moments, the serenity of the morning would erupt into chaos. Carlos had traveled to South Africa with his fiancée, eager to experience the park's renowned wildlife firsthand. Accompanying them were 2 of her local friends, who were equally excited to explore Pilanesburg's vast expanse of over 320 square miles. The park was a sanctuary of life, home to Africa's most iconic animals: elephants, lions, leopards, rhinos, and every inch of it seemed alive with movement, color, and sound. The day promised adventure, discovery, and unforgettable moments, but it also carried a silent, invisible danger that Carlos would soon confront. Entering the park through the Bukatla Gate, the group immediately felt immersed in the wilderness. Every turn of the vehicle revealed breathtaking landscapes, ancient rock formations, and signs of the animals that called this place home. Not long into their drive, the group came across a breeding herd of elephants gathered near a glistening lake. From the safety of the vehicle, Carlos watched, mesmerized, as the massive creatures drank, splashed water, and gently nudged their young. The sunlight glinted off their wrinkled hides, highlighting the majesty and scale of these gentle giants. For a moment, it felt like time had slowed until Carlos saw an opportunity he could not resist. Ignoring the protests of his fiancée and the clear warnings posted throughout the park, Carlos stepped out of the vehicle. His heart raced with excitement as he inched closer, determined to capture a close-up photograph that would immortalize the elephant's grace. At the center of the herd stood a matriarch, a massive 3.5-ton female, her eyes sharp and watchful. Flanking her were 2 enormous bulls and 3 vulnerable calves. The matriarch exuded calm authority, but every muscle in her massive frame was alert. and her protective instincts were ready to spring into action. As Carlos drew nearer, the tranquility shattered. The matriarch's gaze locked onto him, sensing a potential threat to her young. In a heartbeat, she charged, her enormous feet pounding the earth like thunder. The two bulls followed, and the air seemed to vibrate with their raw power. Carlos froze for a fraction of a second, then panic surged. He tried to retreat, screaming for help, but the herd's speed and strength were overwhelming. Within moments, he was overtaken. The matriarch's massive frame collided with him, and he was thrown to the ground, trampled beneath their enormous feet. What followed was a scene of unimaginable horror. Clothing and personal items were scattered across the grass. The marks of the stampede etched the earth, and those inside the vehicle could only watch, paralyzed by fear and disbelief. The air was thick with the sounds of thundering footsteps and desperate cries. Park rangers arrived within minutes, but the elephants, having neutralized the perceived threat, melted back into the dense bush. Emergency responders tried their best, but by the time help reached him, it was too late. Carlos Luna's life had been claimed in the blink of an eye. Elephants, especially when young calves are present, are among the most fiercely protective animals in the world. A female can weigh up to 4 tons and charge at speeds exceeding 25 miles per hour, while bulls are even taller and stronger, capable of causing devastating injuries without hesitation. Their intelligence and strong social bonds make them vigilant guardians, reacting instinctively to any potential threat. In that fleeting, terrifying moment, Carlos had underestimated the raw power of these gentle giants. In the aftermath, officials from the Northwest Parks and Tourism Board expressed their deepest condolences, emphasizing that park regulations exist for one reason: to protect both humans and wildlife. Signs warning visitors to remain inside vehicles are not mere suggestions, they are lifelines, and ignoring them can lead to fatal consequences. Conservation officers highlighted the tragedy as a stark lesson. Even the most serene-looking animals can turn deadly when provoked or threatened. For those who knew him, Carlos was more than a tourist or photographer. He was a passionate adventurer, someone who lived to capture the wonders of the world through his lens. His death sent shockwaves through his family, friends, and the global community of wildlife enthusiasts. It was a reminder that nature, as beautiful as it is uncompromising and unforgiving, and that one misstep, one moment of overconfidence, can change everything. Carlos Luna's pursuit of the perfect photograph had ended in tragedy, leaving behind grief, unanswered questions, and an indelible warning about the untamed power of the wild. Yellowstone National Park is one of the most breathtaking natural wonders in the world, with its steaming geysers, colorful hot springs, and bubbling mud pots that seem almost otherworldly. Beneath the surface, beauty lies a deadly reality that many visitors underestimate. In 1981, David Allen Kerwin, a 24-year-old man, tragically learned just how lethal Yellowstone's thermal features could be. What started as an ordinary visit turned into a devastating chain of events when the dog of his friend, Ronald Ratliff, a small companion named Moosey, wandered too close to the edge of Celestine Pool, one of the park's extremely hot thermal springs. The dog fell in and yelped in immediate pain, and without a moment's hesitation, David jumped in after it. The pool, deceptively calm and almost inviting from the surface, contained water so scalding that it could peel human skin almost instantly. Within less than a minute, the severity of his decision became tragically clear, and the deadly power of the pool became undeniable. Witnesses recall the scene with a mixture of horror and disbelief. David attempted to rescue the dog, his hands scalded and his body racked with burns, while bystanders shouted warnings and tried to help. Ronald Ratliff waded into the dangerously hot water, suffering painful burns on his own feet in a desperate attempt to assist his friend. The intensity of the thermal water left David with catastrophic injuries, with third-degree burns across his body, complete damage to his eyes leaving them white and unseeing, and flesh so compromised that removing his shoes caused the skin to peel away. Despite the severity of his injuries, he reportedly acknowledged the danger in a fleeting moment of clarity, expressing how foolish the situation had become. His courage and devotion to Moosey were undeniable, Yet the physical reality of the geothermal forces at Celestine Pool proved too extreme. He was ultimately taken to a hospital in Salt Lake City, where he succumbed to his injuries the following morning. Tragically, the dog he tried to save also did not survive, leaving a heartbreaking end to an act that began with love and loyalty. The Celestine Pool tragedy serves as a sobering reminder of both the power of Yellowstone's geothermal features and the risks of impulsive heroism. David's actions were clearly motivated by genuine care for his friend's pet, yet they underscore the lethal nature of the park's hot springs, which can reach temperatures near 200 degrees Fahrenheit or 93 degrees Celsius and cause fatal injuries almost instantly. These features, while mesmerizing and visually stunning, are unforgiving, and the incident illustrates how quickly admiration for natural beauty can turn into disaster when respect for nature's danger is overlooked. Over the years, David's story has been recounted in numerous articles, videos, and discussions about Yellowstone, highlighting the fine line between bravery and tragedy. It remains one of the most heart-wrenching examples of a human willing to risk everything for an animal, reminding visitors that while the park's landscapes are enchanting, they are also a powerful and untamed force of nature. His loss left a lasting impression not only on those who witnessed the tragedy firsthand, but also on the broader public, emphasizing that even in moments driven by love and selflessness, nature demands caution, respect, and humility. David Allen Kerwin's story continues to resonate as both a tragic warning and a testament to the devotion humans can feel for their pets. It was May 21, 2025, in Scottsdale, Arizona. By late afternoon, the temperature had hit 102 degrees. That's when 31-year-old Hannah Moody pulled into the Gateway Trailhead at the McDowell Sonoran Preserve. She'd hiked here countless times before. This place felt familiar, almost safe, but the desert can betray anyone, even those who love it most. Hannah wasn't just another hiker. With more than 44,000 Instagram followers, she shared her faith, her fitness journey, and the peace she found in Arizona's mountains. Her series, Hikes with Han, had become a gentle sanctuary online. Videos filled with gratitude, scripture, and hope. Just days before this hike, she posted about how blessed she felt to be exploring the desert again. Nobody knew that post would become her last. She was supposed to meet friends that evening. She always showed up, she always answered. So when her phone stayed silent, they felt fear long before they admitted it. At 7:50 p.m., police were called. Her car was still parked exactly where she left it. No tracks leading away, no signs of danger, just absence, heavy and worrying. As night fell, officers scoured the desert on foot and bike. Drones buzzed overhead. A helicopter swept the darkening landscape with its spotlight. But the desert swallowed everything: sound, light, hope. By 11:30 p.m., visibility was gone. The search had to pause. At sunrise, more than 20 officers returned, joined by the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. The desert didn't care about urgency. It was silent, endless, indifferent. Just after noon, a helicopter spotted something far from the trail, about 600 yards out. A body, exposed, alone. It was Hannah. She had collapsed only 550 meters from the parking lot, close enough to see it if she had been standing upright. Investigators believe she might have stepped off the trail to rest or take what looked like a shortcut. But the heat out here is deceptive. One wrong turn, one extra minute in the open, one moment of dizziness. That's all it takes. The medical examiner's report was devastating. Death by heat exposure, no alcohol, no substances, no medical condition, no struggle, just the brutal, silent force of the desert. Her body showed the early signs of decomposition and minor injuries from falling as she became disoriented. She likely never had the strength to call for help. That might be the hardest part, how close she was, how little the distance mattered. Her mother, Terry, could barely speak through the grief. We're trying to piece it all together. I hope she didn't suffer. I hope she wasn't aware. Her friend Megan described Hannah as someone who made strangers feel seen. To honor her, Megan organized a sunrise hike on May 31st, what should have been Hannah's 32nd birthday. People showed up with candles, prayers, tears, and stories of how Hannah had touched their lives, many of them from people she'd never even met in person. Before her life became intertwined with hiking and faith, Anna spent nearly a decade working as a dancer. Leaving that world was a hard, messy transition. She rebuilt herself through bodybuilding and 5 amateur competitions, where she earned national recognition. But it was her faith that anchored her. In her videos, she talked about surrendering, trusting, letting go of the weight she carried. She believed in purpose, she believed in gratitude, and she believed in beauty, even in the most desolate parts of the desert. In one of her final videos, she talked with a bright, relieved smile about her new restaurant job giving her more time for sunset hikes. She called it a blessing. And then, days later, she took her last hike. Months after her passing, her family posted a final message to her Instagram. She died doing what she adored. Know that you were all precious and loved by her. Thousands responded. Some left prayers. Some wrote how she helped them through dark moments. Others simply said they missed her. Carlos Carvalho had spent decades behind the camera, capturing the breathtaking beauty of nature through his lens. An award-winning cinematographer, he had traveled across continents, working with both actors and wildlife, and had learned to navigate unpredictable environments with remarkable skill. Filming in the wild was never without risk, but Carlos had faced countless challenges before and emerged unscathed. On May 2, 2018, at the Glen Africa Country Lodge in South Africa, Carlos was shooting scenes for a feature film, focusing his camera on a giraffe named Gerald. The day had been smooth. The main filming was complete. The animal wranglers had moved the giraffe off set, and the crew was winding down. But Carlos, ever the perfectionist, decided to capture some final shots on his own, drawn to the towering presence of Gerald, nearly 18 feet tall, with a graceful yet imposing frame. Giraffes are usually seen as gentle giants, but male giraffes have a behavior called necking, where they swing their heads with astonishing force to assert dominance. At that moment, Gerald bent his long neck, spread his legs slightly, and struck with devastating precision. Carlos was caught off guard. The impact hit him square in the head, sending him flying through the air. He crashed to the ground unconscious, blood streaming from his eyes and ears, an unmistakable sign of severe trauma. Crew members watched in horror as it unfolded, unable to intervene in time. Paramedics rushed to the scene, and Carlos was airlifted to Mill Park Hospital in Johannesburg. Doctors fought tirelessly to stabilize him, but the injuries were too severe. That evening, at 8:50 p.m., Carlos succumbed to the trauma, leaving the film industry and those who knew him in stunned grief. Colleagues remembered him not only as a masterful cinematographer, but as a kind, passionate storyteller whose work had left an indelible mark on audiences around the world. The Glen Africa Country Lodge expressed deep sorrow over the incident, but emphasized that Gerald had acted naturally. The giraffe was not at fault. An independent investigation was launched, which suggested that Carlos may have approached the animal too closely, though no official report directly blamed him. His death was a tragic reminder that even the gentlest of creatures can turn deadly in an instant, and that the wild, beautiful world he devoted his life to capturing could be as perilous as it was inspiring. In the blink of an eye, a career spent celebrating life in its rawest form ended in heartbreak, leaving behind a legacy of passion, courage, and artistry that would never be forgotten. Yellowstone National Park is one of those magical places where nature shows off in all its glory, from geysers that spout like caffeine-hyped fountains to sprawling valleys where wildlife roams like they own the place. But in 2012, Hayden Valley reminded everyone that its beauty comes with a serious side of danger. An experienced hiker, confident in his solo trekking skills, decided to wander off the beaten path and explore the backcountry. Unfortunately, he crossed paths with a grizzly bear, and what might have started as a routine hike turned into a harrowing encounter. The bear, a powerful and unpredictable creature, attacked him with devastating force. It was a grim illustration of the delicate balance between human curiosity and the raw, untamed wilderness. Yellowstone had always had its share of bear incidents, but this one hit particularly close to home because it involved someone who knew what they were doing and still underestimated the unpredictability of wildlife. While hiking alone offers a sense of freedom, it also removes the safety net of companions who might scare off a bear or help in an emergency. In this case, that choice proved fatal, and it sent shockwaves through the hiking community and park management alike, highlighting the very real risks of backcountry exploration. The aftermath of the attack brought both sorrow and a renewed awareness of safety precautions in Yellowstone. Rangers quickly cordoned off the area, investigating the incident while reminding visitors of the rules that are often overlooked in the enthusiasm of adventure. Hiking in groups, making noise in dense forested areas, and carrying bear spray were standard advice, but it suddenly felt more urgent than ever. Experts analyzed the attack and suggested that the grizzly might have been defending its territory or reacting to surprise, emphasizing that even seasoned hikers are vulnerable when they unintentionally startle a wild animal. The incident also sparked conversations about respect for nature and understanding the fine line between exploration and intrusion. Hayden Valley, known for its breathtaking views and abundant wildlife, is a place where humans are merely visitors, and this tragedy reminded everyone that the rules of the wild are not negotiable. For those planning backcountry adventures, the story became a cautionary tale wrapped in the awe-inspiring scenery of Yellowstone, blending the thrill of discovery with the sobering reality of risk. In the years since, the 2012 Grizzly attack has become part of Yellowstone's somber lore, a story hikers recount with a mix of fascination and respect. It underscores the unpredictable power of nature and the importance of preparation, caution, and humility in the wilderness. While the park continues to draw millions of visitors eager for adventure, the memory of that fateful encounter in Hayden Valley lingers, a reminder that beauty and danger often coexist in the wild. The incident did not turn people away, but instead reinforced the need to approach backcountry exploration responsibly. It serves as both a tribute to the hiker's spirit of adventure and a stern warning that even expertise cannot eliminate every risk. Yellowstone, with its steaming pools, roaming bison, and majestic grizzlies, demands respect, patience, and awareness. Those who heed the lessons of 2012 can still enjoy the wonder of the park safely, while those who forget may face the harsh consequences that nature sometimes delivers without warning.